What is up, everybody? I'm back with the second half of my Steam Sage set review. This part will be the Cruel Traitor half from the Japanese version. Again, I'm just using the PokeBeach site to have the translations, and I'm going to go through, give some of my opinions on the cards and what will probably be playable in my opinion and different things like that. So we'll just start off with the start of the list here with the Tangela. Nothing too exciting there. Slam, flip 2 coins. For each head, you do 30. And then Mega Drain, 40 damage, and you heal basically 20 damage. So, not too exciting. The Tangrowth, 2 grass and a colorless, 80 damage, and remove 4 damage counters from all of your grass Pokemon. So, heal 40 damage from everything. Good in theory, but probably not going to see any play. And then Whip Down, 3 grass and a colorless, 110. Flip a coin if heads, you do 30 more. So probably won't see much play here. Just a regular Hoppip. Skip Bloom, nothing exciting. Jumpluff, for a colorless, switch your opponent's active Pokemon with one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So kind of like a Lysandre effect, but you don't do any damage. And then for a Grass Energy, this attack does 20 damage times the number of your remaining prize cards. So if you get this out at the start of the game, you could do up to 120, but not very good after that. Yanma, nothing too exciting with that. Then Yanmega. Sonic Vision. If your hand has 4 cards in it, this Pokemon's attacks cost no energy to use. I believe there was a card in like a Hard Gold Soul Silver set. I can't remember if it was like a Prime or not. But very similar ability. I don't know if it was the exact same thing or not. And then Assault Boom, 50 plus damage. If your opponent's active Pokemon has any tools on it, this attack does 70 more. So more often than not, they usually have a tool. So 120 damage if you have 4 cards, then you don't have any energy, which is pretty good in my opinion. Then we have Yanmega Break. Penetrate, 100 damage, and it's not affected by any effects on the opponent's Pokemon. So if you have 4 cards in your hand and you evolve from this Yanmega, you can do 100 damage for free or use that attack. So I don't think it's going to get much play, but it is kind of a neat mechanic there. Larvesta with Bug Bite, nothing exciting. Cool little artwork. Volcarona, another dual type, grass and fire, which is pretty interesting, and it has just a fire weakness. Blazing Scales for 1 grass energy, 20 damage. If heads, your opponent's Pokemon is not confused. If tails, they're paralyzed. So pretty decent status there, but not very much damage. And then for 3 colorless, 120 and discard all energy. So I guess if you needed to finish something off, that would be a good option. Chimchar, again, just like a regular basic, not too good. Monferno, same thing. Infernape, for 2 fire, you can do 120 and discard all energy attached to this Pokemon. And then also for 2 fire, you can do 200 damage. But you can only use this attack if your discard pile has 10 or more fire energy cards in it. Choose 10 fire energy in your discard pile, show them to your opponent, shuffle them back into your deck. So that's pretty interesting card there. I guess if you have quite a few battle compressors or Scorched Earth Stadium, you could get some energy in there. But it'd be interesting. I'm sure some people will try to make a deck work with that. I could see some play. But again, stage 2s are always difficult. Next, we have Mantine. Healing Wave for just a water. Discard as many cards from your hand as you like. Heal 10 damage from this Pokemon for each card you discarded. And then for 3 water, 90 damage. and it does 10 less for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So, not very good, but cool artwork as usual. Oh, that one actually gets big. Bergmite. That's pretty interesting. Looks like he's cold, but he's ice. Avalugg. 2 colorless, do 30. Flip a coin. If heads, discard an energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon. And then for 3 water, discard the top 3 cards of your deck. For each water energy discarded in this way, discard 3 cards from the top of your opponent's deck. Interesting move. I don't know if I've seen anything kind of like that before. Pretty interesting, though. Mareep. Nothing there. Fluffy. I'm not sure how you would pronounce that. 50 for 2 lightning and a colorless. If you flip a coin and get heads, they're now paralyzed. So, not the best. And then we have an Ampharos. Pretty cool. I remember reading a lot of these are supposed to look like the movie that's coming out in the next month or so. And the ability is Shocking Light. Once during your turn, you may choose one of your opponent's Pokemon EX and put 3 damage counters on it. So, pretty good. If you can get 4 of them out, then you'd be putting out 120 damage a turn, which is pretty good, although 4 stage 2s isn't very likely. And then you have 2 lightning and a colorless, 80 damage. Flip a coin. If heads, you do 40 more. And then if tails, they're paralyzed. So, not too bad, but not the best either. I found this kind of interesting. Nidoran male. Search for a Nidoran female and put it on your bench. So, I guess if you just want to do a Nido Queen deck, that could be pretty good. Then we have Nidorino. 20 damage for 2 energy or 40 plus damage. If there's a Nidorino on your bench, this attack does 40 more. So definitely building on the concept of these 2 together. Nidorino, and then Nidoking. I thought this was pretty interesting ability as well. King's Palace. Each of your Nido Queen's attacks do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. And then its own attack is for 2 psychic and a colorless, 60 damage. And then this attack does 30 more damage for each evolved Pokemon on your bench. So it'll be interesting to see. I feel like Nido Queen from Primal Clash, it saw a little bit of play every once in a while. I saw. So maybe it'll get another run here with Nido King boosting its damage, but that's yet to be seen. Then we have Hoopa, really cool looking artwork there. Wish you would zoom in a little better to be able to see that. For just a colorless, choose 2 of your opponent's Pokemon, and it does 20 to each. And then for 3 psychic, 130, and you can't use it your next turn. So not the best moves there. Mankey, focus energy. During your next turn, this Pokemon's jump about does 50 damage. Probably won't be using that, or at least you hope you wouldn't be. Primate, 20 damage, flip a coin. If heads, discard an energy. So similar to the other card we looked at. And then Focus Throw, 2 fighting, 30 damage. If your opponent's active Pokemon's remaining HP is greater than this Pokemon's remaining HP, it does 60 more. So 90, put a Strong Energy, Muscle Band, Fighting Stadium, could be doing quite a bit of damage. Especially since it's a 90 HP Pokemon, so very likely you'd be facing a card that has more HP. Anorith, another restored Pokemon, which is always kind of difficult, but it does have an interesting ability. Each of your restored Pokemon has no weakness. So that's all right, but you would probably never have an Anorith on its own. I guess you could maybe if you're using a different restored Pokemon as your main attacker, but they're usually too difficult to get out. Then we have our Maldo for just a colorless 40 damage and move an energy card attached to your opponent's active Pokemon to one of your opponent's benched. So kind of like Sylveon, but a stage. Well, I guess it's a stage 1, but in theory, I guess it's kind of like a stage 2. And then Guard Claw, 100 damage, and during your next turn, reduce all damage done to this Pokemon by 30, which is kind of cool, especially with the fighting support. So could see a little deck built around it, but probably not going to see it in tournaments or anything. Sneasel, flip a coin if heads, discard all, prevent all effects of attacks, including damage. So I guess a little stall there, but you're only doing 10. And then Weavile, rip off ability, and as often as you like during your turn, you may take a Pokemon tool card attached to one of your Pokemon and return it to your hand. So I guess that could be useful to reuse tool cards. I feel like there's something that already has that ability, but not entirely sure. Spiritomb, 10 damage and they're asleep. And then Play with Wounds, move the damage counters on your opponent's bench to your opponent's Pokemon in any way you like. So I guess you can really only mess with bench. You can't do anything with the active. I guess you could do that if you're fighting like a Night March or something. I'm not quite sure what you would use that for. Finish something off, maybe. Poniard, 10 times the damage of Poniard you have in play. So up to 40 if you have all 4 in. And then Bisharp, Retaliate, 30 plus. If any of your Pokemon were knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack during his or her last turn, it does 60 more. So I guess if one of your other Bisharp got knocked out, you can just bring this one up and do 90. And then Mach Claw, 60, and it's not affected by resistance. With it being 2 types, it hits for 2 weaknesses, but it also will have 2 resistances as well, which is something to keep in mind when people are going to be building decks around that. And then Yveltal, the same one again, like Xerneas as the XY base set and many other reprints. Oblivion Wing, attach a Darkness from your discard to one of your benched. Always a pretty good setup attack. And then Yveltal Break, awesome artwork. 3 Darkness, 120, and it does 30 to each of your opponent's bench. That already has damage counters on it. That's kind of a big point because you would have to have damage counters on them already. The only thing I can think of that would probably be helpful would be maybe Crobat or Fortress, but they kind of haven't seen any in play lately, so I don't know how popular this will be. Then we have Magearna EX. I misread this ability at first. It says prevent all effects of your opponent's attacks except damage done to each of your Pokemon that has metal energy attached to it. Initially, I thought it was prevent all damage, and I was like, well, this card's going to be insane. But then it's just effects of their attack. 160 HP, so a little less than the usual, but it does have a pretty interesting ability that could be thrown in with another metal deck. Then Soul Blaster for 3, 1 metal and 2 colorless, 120. And next turn it does 60. 120 damage. During your next turn, this Pokemon Soul Blaster attack does 60 damage. I'm thinking that should be 60 more damage. Maybe this will be updated or it was a typo. Let me see if they changed it up here. I think that is a typo. Well, they don't mention it, but if you have any idea, definitely let me know in the comments. That kind of be weird for it to do less damage, but maybe that's the point. They don't want it to be overpowered, maybe. Meryl, 10 damage and heal 10 from this Pokemon. Won't be using that. Azumarill, another dual type. It's kind of weird. None of the dual types are really any good. I know the Mega Steelix is, and also Mega Gardevoir down here is. They'd probably be the closest to being playable, in my opinion. Play rough 30 plus, flip a coin if heads, you do 30 more. And then uh, for 2 fairy and a colorless, 80 and heal 30. So not the best. Gardevoir EX, at least it's not a reprint. So we'd have like 3 of the same thing. So we got Link Blast 30 plus. This attack does 70 more damage if this Pokemon has the same number of energy as your opponent's. So it'd kind of be hard to set this up if your opponent doesn't have any energy. So, and then Blade of Light is 120, but you discard 1. So probably won't be attacking with this very much. Then we have Mega Gardevoir EX, Despair Ray for a fairy and a colorless, 110 damage. Discard as many of your bench Pokemon as you like. This attack does 10 more damage for each bench Pokemon discarded in this way. I don't think this is very good. I guess I could be wrong, but because like if you discard them, excuse me, because if you discard them, then and there's nothing that you can really get back anymore, like execute. So I guess if they bring something like that back in like a couple months or a few more sets, then this could see play. Something I could see happening, reprinting execute in say a year from now, and then this card would be pretty good, I would think, because then that's 40 easy damage. You'd be doing 150 for just 2 energy. Or at least you could even discard some unknowns or something. Then we have Dino. Nothing exciting there. Zweilous for just 1 energy. Flip 2 coins, 20 for each heads. Nothing good there. Hydreigon, 40 damage for 2 colorless. And during your next turn, the attacks of the defending Pokemon do 40 less. So that's actually not that bad if you're trying to get another energy attached and you already have Hydreigon out and you're not able to do Dark Burn yet. Dark Burn 50 times damage. You may discard as many Darkness energy attached to this Pokemon as you like. Does 50 times the number of Darkness energy. I guess in the time of Dark Patch, it would be pretty good. But I don't think that's the best. Then we have Hydreigon Break. So basically a stage 3 Calamity Blast, a Psychic, 2 Darkness, and a colorless. It is Dragon, so you could do the double Dragon energy. But it says 150, and then choose 3 energy attached to this Pokemon and discard them. Choose 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. It does 50 to both of them. So the problem with doing double Dragon energy is double Dragon energy, although it is 2 energies, it's technically only 1 energy card. So I believe you would have to discard a double Dragon and then like a Darkness and a Psychic or something like that. So I could be wrong. If I am, you can definitely let me know in the comments. And then we have Meowth. You may only use this attack if at the start of the game you went second. Discard an energy attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So kind of a pretty pointless attack. Because if you go first, you can't attack anyways. And you would want to evolve into Persian the next turn. So not quite sure about that one. I guess if you have a bad hand or something, I guess that's kind of just something funny they want to do. Then we have Persian. Nothing too exciting here. If it's a Pokemon evolved from Meowth this turn, does 30 more. So 60 for 1 energy, but otherwise not very good. Rufflet, nothing good there. We have Braviary for 2 colorless, 20 plus. Flip a coin if heads, does 50 more. And then Free Fall, 120 minus. This attack does 20 less for each colorless in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. So a pretty bad attack because the average Pokemon, I think, would have a 2. so you'd only be doing 80. Some of them have free retreat, but still 120 isn't the best. Then we have Halucha. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to your bench, you may use this ability. Your opponent switches his or her active Pokemon with one of his or her benched. So a thing to note is that they choose which Pokemon they bring up. So it kind of would be, I guess the closest thing to that would be like an escape rope, although obviously you're not switching. And another thing to note is it does not have free retreat. Although you're playing it to the bench, but still, it's kind of useless after you play it because its attack is just flip 2 coins. Its attack does 20 more damage for each head, so you could do up to 60. But you're not going to want to attack, so I think you could see a 1-of in this deck if you're in a sticky situation. But otherwise, I don't really see a use. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to see too much play. I think it's a common here, which sometimes will mean an uncommon. But if it's just a common, then that's kind of evident. Again, these trainers are actually the same. If you haven't seen the previous video, I'll put a link in the description, and I'll also put up annotation if I didn't put one up at the start of the video. And then I'm going to show the full arts. The only thing different from this was just the Anorith and the Gardevoir Spirit Link. These two and the Ninja Boy and Pokemon Ranger are also in the other set. Then for the secret rares, although these 4 are just the regular. You've got the Magerna full art. Pretty cool looking. Hopefully they get some new, better images coming up, and you guys could check that out for yourself. Gardevoir, quite similar to the Primal Clash version, if I remember correctly. And then the Mega Gardevoir EX full art. Pretty interesting. It'll be neat to think if they change full arts or get rid of full arts in the next set or two, since the Pokemon Sun and Moon are coming out and we have a new region. So they would obviously have a new set of Pokemon cards. And then we have the secret rare of Gardevoir. Pretty interesting there with the Evoltal. Does this have I wonder if this has Xerneas in the back. It does. Pretty interesting there. Not quite sure why they put that, because this usually looks like a happy and kind of in a meaner evil spirit with Xerneas. So that's pretty interesting. But that's it for this one. Thank you all very much for watching. Be sure to comment down below what your favorite cards are, or if you guys think I have a wrong opinion on some of these, you think some will be more playable or anything like that. I personally don't see very many playable cards in this set. Maybe it's just because I'm not thinking of all the other cards that they would go with. But I could see maybe Mega Gardevoir maybe, but none of the EXs seem to stand out in my opinion, but I guess that's yet to be told. Again, thank you all for watching. Be sure to check out the first part if you haven't already, and stay tuned for more videos.